listen to reason? Will you open your eyes? It's a wonder what you'll find with an open mind. You may be surprised. Yeah, gotta get away from this illusion for the sake of the world. This delusion has gotta go.
Hi everyone, and welcome to the Atheist Experience. I'm your host, Russell Glasser, and with me today is Don Baker.
Hey, good to be here.
Today is Sunday, August 17th, 2014. We're a live call-in public access atheist television show based in Austin, Texas, and dedicated to promoting positive atheism and the separation of church and state. We're available through live streaming video at ustream.tv. The official Atheist Experience website is www.atheist-experience.com. You can provide feedback by commenting on the official show blog at freethoughtblogs.com/AXP, or you can email us at tv@atheist-community.org. If you enjoy this show, please check out our related podcast, The Nonprofits, which is airing on the first and third Wednesday of every month. It features Jeff D., Dennis Loubet, and me most of the time. You can find links to that at the Atheist Experience website, and the next show will be recorded live on August 20th, 2014. That's this Wednesday. As always, the cast and crew of the Atheist Experience will be going to dinner after the show at El Arroyo at 1624 West 5th Street in downtown Austin. Others are welcome to join us, and we'll be arriving around 6 p.m. Let's see. Oh, yeah. As of like a month ago, we're also rebroadcasting older episodes on Atheist TV, the new American Atheist Roku channel. And if you go to the blog right now, you can see a response that I did to a Salon.com writer who reviewed a few hours of Atheist TV, including quite a lot of the Atheist Experience. And thought we were horrifying. Of course, by the time this makes it to Atheist TV, it will probably this show will probably be a few months old. But anyway, hi people in the future. If you're watching now in August, then you still have plenty of time to go to the ACA website and check out the upcoming Bat Cruise, which this year is going to be on September 27th. Now, this is an annual event that the ACA holds, where people come around to a lot of people show up to visit the show, and the day before that, on Saturday, there's going to be first a lecture by Dr. Richard Carrier and also Chris Johnson, who shot and produced the A Better Life book, which is a coffee table book about atheists. And after that, we're all going to be clambering onto a boat and floating around at sundown to check out some urban bats flying out from under the bridge. Great time every year.
That's a good reason to make a pilgrimage to Austin.
Yeah.
An atheist pilgrimage.
Right.
Good stuff.
All right.
Well, today is the 25th failure show that I've done. So it's the silver anniversary of fail, I guess. It's silver, right? So I want to talk today about failing the environment. And, we have this kind of environmental crisis, if you will. The climate change is going on, our carbon dioxide is increasing, and all these things. And we're kind of stuck in a little bit of a rut here as far as how do we deal with it. And some of my ideas today come from an article written by David Swanson called "Why We Allow the Destruction of Our Planet" in the August 2013 The Humanist, which is published by the American Humanist Association, and it's available online. Anyway, so we have a lot of impediments for dealing with the environment, and some of the general impediments are inertia. We're used to doing certain things, or there are vested interests in say the oil industry or these sorts of things, and there's a lot of propaganda going on. But compared to non-evangelicals, American evangelicals were less likely to believe that climate change was happening, and less likely to believe that human activity was the cause, and less likely to express worry or concern. And I want to unpack this today and talk a little bit about why that is. And I think that there are at least 5 reasons. One is the idea of dominionism. Another idea is that God is in charge, or denialism. Prayer is a failure, and following the wrong authority is another problem, and end times belief is another one. So I want to talk about each of these. There's a quote in the Bible in Genesis 1:28, and God blessed them, and God said unto them, be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth and subdue it, have dominion over the fish of the sea and over the birds of the heavens and over every living thing that moves on the earth. And a lot of Christians take this as we get a free pass to go destroy things or whatever. And we get quotes like this from Rick Santorum. We were put on this earth as creatures of God to have dominion over the earth, for us to benefit, not for the earth's benefit. So this is the sort of attitude that comes out of dominionism. And dominionism is largely an American theocratic movement, unconcerned with harm to the environment. And there's also a sort of dovetail movement in Christianity to make as many children as you want, be fruitful and multiply. And this has got an obvious negative impact on the environment. Overpopulation is one of the main sources of our problems here. On the issue of God is in charge and denialism, we have people like Congressman John Shimkus of Illinois, who has served on a congressional subcommittee on the environment and the economy, and he wants more power in this area. And he basically has asserted that the planet is in fine shape. There's nothing wrong because God promised Noah just as much. He promised Noah that there would never be a problem. Senator James Inhofe is definitely a big, he's a senator from Oklahoma. He says that only God could change the climate, and to say otherwise is arrogant. And he wrote the book, The Greatest Hoax, How the Global Warming Conspiracy Threatens Your Future. So he's definitely doubled down on this. And as a disclaimer to him, he's received $1.3 million in campaign contributions from the oil and gas industry. So we wonder where his loyalties lie. Rush Limbaugh, go ahead. Did you have something?
I was going to say the first time I ran into the idea of specifically Christian opposition to global warming. I mean, I was familiar with the denial movement in general, but when I saw Jesus Camp,
they were plugging it there, weren't they?
There's a scene early before the Jesus Camp starts where they're filming this kid getting homeschooled by his mom, and she just out of the blue, like they're doing this little Q&A out of this book. And she is like, well, global warming is a big thing, and what's wrong with this reasoning? And the kid Levi, he parrots this answer like, well, the temperature has only risen 0.6 or 0.6 degrees, which, like, obviously he's memorized from this same book. And I thought that was weird at the time because I was familiar with evolution denial as part of evangelical
that's a
traditions.
big thing, right?
Yeah.
The evolution thing, but the global warming thing is in there too. And hopefully by the end here we'll unpack that a little bit and explain why. I mean, there still is a bit of a puzzle of why. Well, anyway, let me go back here to a couple more quotes. Rush Limbaugh, our favorite guy. He says, see, in my humble opinion, folks, if you believe in God, then intellectually you cannot believe in man-made global warming. You must either be agnostic or atheist or believe that man controls something that he can't create. So this is definitely denialism. He also says, my views on the environment are rooted in my belief in creation. I refuse to believe that people who are themselves the result of creation can destroy the most magnificent creation of the entire universe. James Watt, Secretary of the Interior under Reagan, was considered one of the most environmentally harmful U.S. politicians of all time, and he was definitely steeped in this movement. And he said, among other things, I do not know how many future generations we can count on before the Lord returns. So we're hinting at some of the apocalyptic ideas. Prayer, what about prayer? Well, when Christians pray, well, is that going to help? No. We all know that prayer is a failure, and I unpacked that on episode 744. Doing it as a form of wishful thinking, and even if you believe God is going to do what he's going to do, right, anyway. And for his own mysterious reasons. So I have this quote from the Ambrose Bierce, the Devil's Dictionary. The definition of pray is a verb to ask that the laws of the universe be annulled in behalf of a single petitioner confessedly unworthy. I love it. And also when you pray, it's kind of worse than doing nothing because it lets you believe you've done something. So that's a failure. Another issue is a lot of folks follow authorities, right? So whose authority are you going to follow? Are you going to follow the authority of the people who are experts in this field, or are you going to follow the authority of somebody else? Well, Christian leaders don't want people to think for themselves. They just want them to follow the approved authority. But who is the authority? Well, according to them, it's not scientists who are the ones qualified to weigh the evidence. That would lead to some sort of slippery slope towards people wanting evidence-based policy and decision-making. We can't have that. And that might also lead to embracing evolution, which, if you're going to believe the scientists about the environment, you're going to have to believe them about the evolution too. And we can't have that. So we get folks like Truth in Action Ministries host John Rabe saying, one of the ways we can commit idolatry is by substituting ourselves as the creature for...
Creator? No.
Creature for God, and that's what many of these scientists and bureaucrats are trying to do, I think, creator for God.
That might be it.
So, are you supposed to follow religious leaders? Well, only specific ones. Consider that Richard Cizik has been a Christian environmental crusader and advocates this idea called creation care, which I still consider a misguided idea, but at least it's better than trying to go out and actively destroy the environment. But his efforts to do this has led them to disown him, essentially, and he's no longer running the National Association of Evangelicals, and they have distanced themselves from this whole idea. So not religious leaders are you supposed to follow, not all of them. But you are supposed to follow anyone supporting climate change denialism, such as the oil industry, Fox News, the Koch brothers. And there's really a misinformation campaign going on, much like the smoking doesn't cause cancer misinformation campaign. Another problem is end times belief. 40% of Americans believe the world will end with a battle between Jesus and the Antichrist. 22% think it will happen within their lifetime. So any natural disaster is confirmation of these beliefs. A catastrophe is good somehow. Jesus is coming. So why would anyone with these beliefs lift a finger to save the environment? I talked about the failure of the second coming in episode 748, if anybody wants to go look that up. So here's a quote from John Hagee, who's an end times whack job minister in San Antonio, based in San Antonio. He says the Bible says that whenever we approach the coming of the Lord Jesus Christ, that there would be strange weather patterns. Jesus said this in Matthew in the 25th chapter. So we have a decision to make. Do we believe what an environmentalist group says and choose to live in a world where we're attempting to make everything as clean in the air as possible, or do we believe what the Bible says, that these things are going to happen, and rather than try to clean up all this air and solve all these problems of the world by eliminating factories, we should start to tell people about Jesus Christ who is to return. So So clearly Christianity is working against solving climate change problems. Denialism and wishful thinking are the order of the day. Ultimately, they are rooting for catastrophes because it plays up in their snuff porn industry, which is betting on the end of the world, and they want to keep that whole paranoia going. So to them, accepting climate change is just an admission that their God is useless, which of course atheists know he is. And yes, this is another failure of Christianity. So atheists, those of you in the audience, and other people of sense and reason need to take the reins on this issue and do something about it. At least call this BS as it is. So, thank you. Shall we go on to callers?
Sure. I want to preface this call.
Okay.
Because this is what? This is a repeat. What? Okay. I'm going to Ian in New York. Never mind.
Hello.
Hi.
What's going on?
Not much.
You're on the air, Leanne.
So, I guess my question, I know I told you about ALS. It's more about this, I don't know if you know about this ice bucket challenge that's going on Facebook and Instagram lately.
I just today saw that Weird Al did a video on it, but I don't know what it is.
Basically, these people get a bag of ice and a bucket full of water. They go online, they make a video, they say, I got nominated by my friend to dump this bucket of ice over my head to support ALS. And then they call 3 of their friends out and say, if you don't do this in an hour, you have to donate $100 to ALS awareness and stuff like that.
So it's a twist on the old chainmail scheme, except for a good cause. I mean, let's not
I guess
that.
my whole thing with it is, like, I'm sure it's great for ALS awareness, or at least the money in their pocket, but is it good for the overall science literacy of our modern culture kind of thing? Are people? It's really trendy, is what I'm getting at. It's in the summertime.
Well, there are different charities that have different ways of raising money. Like the AIDS charities had the AIDS quilt, which was a thing, and we have the pink ribbons for breast cancer and a lot of different things. And
we live in an age right now of social media, and that can be good and bad. But clearly there's 2 things going on here. One of which is donations to a charity, which, for all I know, is doing good work. I'm not familiar with them personally. And the other is doing a stunt to raise awareness for it. And I think there is not necessarily a direct link between the one thing and the other in terms of understanding what it's about, but I'm not in principle against doing stunts like this in order to just make people interested and curious. And as far as I'm concerned, assuming this charity is doing good work, there's nothing wrong with anything which nets them more money. Personally, I'd be particularly annoyed if a chain letter came in like this at me, and I'd be less likely to donate to them from someone saying, "Hey, you have to do this." But that's just me.
Yeah, it just kind of blows my mind sometimes the stuff I see on the Facebook feed, that pops up, somebody does their ice bucket challenge, and then underneath that I saw this one where apparently an Orthodox Jewish baptism or whatever. They gave him herpes pretty much from when the baby was. I forgot the name of it.
So you're changing topics, just to be clear, right?
My bad. So
you're talking about a bryst.
Yeah, and apparently a couple babies have gotten herpes from.
Right, we mentioned that on the show at one point. Right, yeah, it's a bad thing because herpes is especially harmful to youngsters who don't have a developed immune system.
And when that pops up underneath the ALS thing, it just seems almost impossible that anyone's going to make an ice bucket challenge for shit like that. When they.
So I'm a little confused.
People are capable of pursuing more than one cause at a time. I do not hold with the idea that you shouldn't promote one thing on the grounds that it's not as bad as another thing. I think that's ridiculous. Okay?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
all right. Thanks for calling.
All right.
Okay, so yeah, I thought somebody was trying to tell me not to take Andrew in Bethlehem again, but I'm gonna preface this call because I was mistaken about that.
Okay.
Andrew called last week and apparently has called a bunch of times before that I wasn't aware of. And I wound up hanging up on Andrew because after talking for about 10 or 15 minutes and me repeatedly asking to get to a point, he told me he still needed 5 more minutes to get to a point. So it was suggested to me by a fan that if he calls back, which he has, I point out that even complex scientific ideas that require whole papers, very lengthy, dense papers to explain, they generally have something called an abstract in which they sum up what their point is and their conclusions and the basic outline of where they're going. And so I'm going to start with the same thing that I asked Andrew repeatedly last week, which is, how long is this going to take to demonstrate something, and can you give me an abstract, if you will, of where you're going? All right.
Atheist Experience listeners.
You weren't on the air yet. Nobody's heard a thing you said. What's up?
Hi, Russell. This is Gary in Houston.
Oh.
And I think that I may have been brought into the program prematurely.
Oh, yeah.
You want to check on that, make sure I've made it to the screener?
Let me put you on hold and get you back to the screener. I guess we dropped Andrew already.
All right.
Sorry.
Okay.
Maybe he hung up as soon as I started talking about him. Andrew in Illinois.
Oh, hello?
Yeah, that's you.
How are you? Love
I'm
your
good.
show. So I assume you've read my question, but to
Well, nobody in the audience read your question, so ask it.
I was going to sum it up here. My thing is I'm an atheist, I'm a college student, and I'd like to create some kind of group for secular, or at least skeptic viewpoints to basically challenge people's beliefs, but not to go out and find them, but as you guys, let them call in, let them find you. My problem is, if you were going around, say you were like a depressed Christian or whatever, and you were looking for other religions, if you go to other places of faith or groups on campus, they're usually trying to offer some kind of belief, some kind of package you sign up for so that you feel better about yourself. And it occurred to me that atheism is kind of all stick and no carrot from a kid's perspective. What are they, just looking at it from a that hasn't been challenged. You're coming in saying that it's a good idea, all that you believe in, basically.
Let me get this straight. You're hoping to create a group not for other atheists, but to be sort of the atheist equivalent of a Mormon missionary? I mean, to go around telling people the good news about Jesus not existing?
No.
Yeah.
That's not what I want.
We don't have a great marketing arm like Christianity and some of the other religions do. So I would agree with that.
True.
That's is that what I want to be, if I can explain it really quickly, is, if you believe in a religion, I assume it's pretty important because it's what's going to happen to you for eternity after you die. So if you claim seriously and you're in an academic environment, away from your parents, go off to college, come think for yourself, it's an opportunity, a place where you have the opportunity to go look at whatever from a skeptic standpoint. That's the best way I can think of packaging a secular group, other than also doing the good things that religion does in its organizations, such as, community acts, just general things that are good for the community. So, I mean, there's that you offer and say, but to draw someone in or to make sure they're not afraid to actually, open themselves up a little bit in college and test their belief. I'm trying to find a way to package the message so it's not so scary. So it's not, I'm just going to go here and quit believing everything I believe and lose all meaning.
Well, one way to do that, I think, is to come at it from a skeptic's standpoint and not necessarily go after the sacred cow immediately and say, hey, we're interested in skepticism, applying reason to various problems, and there's actually a lot of folks that are very big into that as far as medical claims or political claims or these sorts of things where skepticism is a good thing to have in your pocket if you're going to evaluate what people are saying, or advertisements, all sorts of things like that. And you don't necessarily have to go for the jugular immediately with that. You can instead focus on just general skepticism of various things, and religion can be just one of those things that you apply skepticism to.
I guess that I was just worried about. I mean, you guys have fielded so many theist calls that I would have hoped that you would be able to identify there's our.
Yeah, but I mean, it takes a while to build an audience, because if you want people to actually call in voluntarily, you have to make people aware. Well, you have to first make people aware of you, and second, you have to make people want to talk to you. And I mean, doing outreach through an atheist show, I guess, is one way of getting random people in who might be interested in you.
Yeah, don't fall in love with that sort of medium or that sort of way of doing things.
Yeah, because I'm not really sure that, I mean, in the first place, you're setting up sort of an adversarial situation where you're going to change people's minds. And in the second place, you're hoping to be able to sit around and let them come to you. And it's difficult to be sure how to frame the incentive that they would have for that. And also, like even on the Atheist Experience, we don't come right out and say that our goal is to deconvert the Christians and have them change, and logically browbeat them into changing their minds. I mean, we're on the air for two reasons. One is outreach to atheists, and the other is talking to Christians in sort of an open, direct, and respectful way, where we ask them, like, what do you believe and why? And we we give them an opportunity to explain themselves. And so this show isn't necessarily just supposed to be a filibuster where the Christian says one thing and then you tell him how ridiculous his point of view is.
But it works well for displaying conversation, though. Like, these talks
right.
we have, it's very useful. But the thing I saw about this show is that, afterwards you go out to eat and invite people to come eat with you. I've been to a lot of youth groups. These people don't necessarily believe in their religion for any kind of reason. So it's, the kind of community sense.
But I'm mentioning this by way of saying that when we go out to eat after the show, we're doing it because we want to create a sense of community with other atheists. And I think that that is maybe the best function that you can serve with an atheist group, because like your campus juggling club doesn't go around buttonholing people on the quad and saying like, hey, why aren't you a juggler yet?
Right.
They try to appeal to other people who are interested in juggling and create an atmosphere where they can hang out with like-minded people and have a good time.
Yeah, the social aspect of it is super important, and that's a big part of what the Atheist Community of Austin does. Another angle you can go on is church-state separation, which is actually something that everybody should think is an awesome thing, because the state religion won't be your religion. And that's an angle that the ACA has followed, and it's brought us a lot of folks too that are very interested in that topic, and there's a lot you can do there as far as education, and the secular ideas in general are a good thing. So don't get too wedded to any particular format. Provide a group that's a social thing and see where it goes.
All right.
And I mean,
ultimately, groups are going to be organic. They're going to do what the people within them want to do, and your best bet is to catalyze that and help that happen.
Yeah, and if word gets out that the meetings at this group are fun and you have good activities, and maybe you could get funding for some prominent atheist speakers to show up
Speakers
and
or
have,
debates
and have a big,
or
big
yeah,
event, then
movie nights, all sorts of things.
yeah, then this group will just organically grow. You don't have to go out of your way to find members whose minds you've changed.
That logic makes sense, but as an atheist, being so isolated, it's hard to imagine people flocking. You know what I mean?
Well, I'm not going to go so far as to say they'll flock.
Maybe,
but, and quite outside this group, one thing you can do as an individual is just have these conversations with people you know who are Christians, and do so in a respectful way so that both of you enjoy talking to each other.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for the advice. And, I'll probably fall back again.
All right.
Honest.
Well, let us know of your progress.
Good luck to
Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you.
right, bye.
Thank you for taking my call.
All right, bye. Dave in Dallas.
Oh, hi. Don and Russell.
Hey.
Hi.
Hi, glad to be on. I wanted to delve into what your thoughts were on the nature of logic, because you and the host and the co-host on this show have a high degree of logic, and I respect it very much. But I was kind of more directed for Matt and Tracy, because they were brought up in a religious environment, and then they snapped.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they got real logical. But you know them very well. And I just wondered how they didn't see it earlier. They didn't see that some examples when they were studying the Bible that like Jonah couldn't possibly live in a whale. Get swallowed by a whale, live there for 3 days.
Well, if you believe that God is all powerful, then pretty much He can bend whatever laws of reality that He wants, and it's all consistent, right?
Right, but if you're a very logical person like you two, I think did not have a strong religious background.
That's correct.
Or any at all.
I didn't.
But you were exposed to some religious thought or ideas. You knew about religion.
Being smart and thinking logically is no guarantee that you won't fall for stuff.
Absolutely, yeah.
There are a lot of very smart. I mean, the majority of people in the world are religious, and they're not all fools, or even mostly fools.
Right.
I feel like I want to mention an old book by Michael Shermer called "Why Smart People Believe Weird Things." Is that what it's called?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
I haven't read this book, but I've just heard good things about it. But throughout my life, I've experienced lots of situations where people who are generally smart and intelligent and logical thinking can also be very strongly religious, and to some extent sort of compartmentalize their religious beliefs away from their scientific beliefs and say, like, it's a different way of knowing things. And there have been different kinds of things that I considered some kind of a scam. Like, for instance, when I was almost through college, I got pitched for a group called Amway, which I concluded is kind of a scam and even a little bit culty. And yet there was this long list of celebrities and financial managers and doctors that they would trot out as, look, these guys believe in it, so you should too.
Scientology is like
Scientology,
that too.
that's a good example too.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know, and I just 2 weeks ago I read the profile on Matt, and he gave the same answer, and I was glad to see that because it explains everything. He said he was sorry that he compartmentalized religion to keep it safe from skeptics or skepticism.
Right.
And that answers everything. That's what we do. That's what people do, and you sort of let logic go. I mean, everybody has some degree of logic. If you drive a car, you go to the store, the grocery list.
Sure.
You're using logic, but some
but
have
let me
more.
flip it around, Dave. A lot of people can delude themselves about various things and be mistaken or go along with the gimmick without thinking about it, and that's part of human nature. You just have to be on guard for it.
Right, especially if you're raised in in a religious family background, and then you continue maybe in college with. I spoke to a man that was probably 20 years out of college. He's a lawyer, very smart guy, and I asked him why he was religious in the past. He's not now, because he's just expounding all the fallacies of the Bible now. But he said he was in a religious family, very strong religious family. He went to college where they had theology courses, and he took those courses. But his senior year, it occurred to him that it was all wrong, that the religion was deceiving him. And I asked him why. How could he? Because he must have been very logical to argue law cases as a lawyer. Mm-hmm. And he said, well, 1,000 years ago, people thought the earth was flat. And you looked around, and everybody probably agreed, because they had nothing else to compare it to. And it's just like what it seems to be. So you're raised in a religious family, and you go take theology courses. But somewhere there, so that's the excuse. But then I thought, well, everybody goes to school, private or public, except a few gypsies maybe. But you have math classes in high school, trigonometry, geometry, algebra, and then you take science. So you have to be you're forced to think logically and improve your logical thought.
Right.
But
often you don't hold up your beliefs. Education in most communities is a secular thing, in the sense that they're not holding up religious beliefs to scientific claims or whatever, and so you can compartmentalize.
Yes, it would be a separate.
And I want to make another point here, and that is that people who come to atheism, they don't tend to come there's not generally an epiphany moment where all of a sudden the house of cards falls. It generally tends to be a long process of thinking about it and saying, oh, this doesn't make sense. Let me read more, and it's a process. And I've seen it take as long as 10 years with various people, and that's much more common than. I've never heard of really anybody saying, "Snap, I was an atheist." It's really more of a process and thinking through it sort of thing, and it takes a while to do that.
That seems to be the case. I have one example that I just heard a couple months ago about a sociologist or psychologist that was studying children between the age of 4 and 8 or 10, and she said, children. I think Tracy mentioned something about this months ago, that we're purpose-driven. Like, what are your ears for? What is your nose for? They want to know why, and they want to know a purpose. And then shown like a picture of some pointed rocks. Are these rocks there with two choices? Are these rocks there because minerals deposited over a long, long time, or are they there for animals to scratch their backs on? And of course, that's the purpose. Or
so anyway.
Purpose-driven, so when you get to high school...
Dave? I think we're going to move on to another caller now.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you.
Thanks for calling.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye. Gary in Houston. I accidentally... Oh, come on now.
Now our button's not working.
What? Gary?
Oh no, Gary.
He's the guy who replaced Andrew. So this
call
line
back,
is
please.
Cursed. Is it Jesus in Cordoba, Spain? Wait, none of these buttons. Hello? Oh, crap. I'm like hanging up on anybody whose button I push.
Oh, no.
Somebody put line 2 on, please. If you can't. Okay, Andrew in Nashville.
Hey, guys.
Hi.
All right, I'll make this as quick as I can. So, I'm an atheist, for the record. Big black sheep in the Bible Belt. And what I want to talk about is one of the issues that was brought up in the very beginning, which is failing the environment. Now, many religions prohibit the consumption of meat. Islam and Judaism prohibit pork, Hinduism prohibits the consumption of beef. But one of the things that turned me off to religion the most was bacon. I love bacon so much. It's great. And But here's the
That's
thing.
what atheists should promote.
Which religion were you considering? Because
Drinking beer.
That could be
But
our
here's
marketing.
the thing that I want to discuss.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people are turned off to the consumption of meat for dietary reasons and for religious reasons, but also for secular ethical reasons. You know, when you go into the supermarket and you buy meat, you don't really feel a whole lot of guilt because you're not directly responsible for slaughtering the animals which you're wanting to consume. However, you know, as a meat consumer, you are in a way indirectly responsible for, say, the exacerbation of growth hormones, proliferation of steroids, confining animals to very small spaces in factory farming.
okay.
And
By the way,
question-
I'm not a vegetarian or a vegan, but I recognize some of those ethical issues you're bringing up as legitimate points of discussion.
okay, and that's exactly what I wanted to ask you two is whether or not you two were a vegetarian or vegan, and Russell, you answered that question. And
My sister
since
is
you're not-
vegan.
Okay.
And I don't give her crap about it because I think it's a fine choice for her to make.
Okay. Well, another question I wanted to ask was how...
Don,
as
you're not a
atheists-
vegan, right?
I'm not a vegan.
No, I consume meat.
Or a vegetarian.
Okay. Well, your other question, Andrew?
How do you reconcile the consumption of meat with your personal morality and like being, you know, contributing to ameliorating the environment?
Are you familiar with the concept of the tragedy of the commons?
It rings a bell. I don't have Wikipedia in front of me, so I don't know.
This is something that's brought up in game theory from time to time. Apparently, I think, and I'm going to get this story totally wrong, but this is based on an actual Scottish town at some point in history where they would all have cattle, but they would have like these communal grazing areas. And any individual cattle owner would have, or maybe it was sheep, but anyway, they would have the option at any given time to go out of town and buy more livestock, which would be personally profitable to them because you know, that's part of their livelihood. But any time that one animal was added to this communal grazing grounds, you know, the grass would get thinner and it would be harder for all the animals to get more, and yet the individualistic calculation about whether you should buy a new cow or sheep would always be in favor of doing that, because the small amount that you detract from the communal grazing grounds and the ability for everybody to sustain their animals is outweighed by your personal benefit of having more animals. That comes up a lot in economics because on the one hand, it's true that any individual action that you take that might help the environment is ultimately going to have a small impact on a one-by-one basis.
Right.
But at the same time, it's also true that if everybody acts in this selfish way, then things will be worse for everybody. This is a really hard economics problem to solve. And obviously the fact that I'm not a vegetarian means that I feel like in my personal calculation, the pleasure I get from eating meat isn't
Outweighs any ethical
outweighed by
concern.
my desire to help the, to believe the, I mean, to give more weight to the very serious ethical issues on a large scale that vegetarianism poses. I don't know. I don't know how else to answer that.
Well, that's satisfactory, I guess. I mean, you know, I'll look more into the tragedy of commons.
Yeah,
You know,
check it out.
I love meat myself.
Yeah.
I eat it damn near every night. But at
But
the
you
same time,
know-
I do feel a little
So that's
bit guilt.
that's a general economic principle, and not necessarily directly talking about, you know, vegetarianism. But Russell's made a good point of the individual's decisions we make may not be the best for everybody, right?
Right.
I see.
But you know,
that's certainly one of the challenges.
I know a lot of vegetarians who live very happy lives and really enjoy the diet that they have. And I'm not trying to talk anyone out of vegetarianism. I think that if they feel seriously enough about those ethical issues, they should go ahead and look into it.
Okay. All right, guys.
Well, thank you.
I'll let you get to the other callers, but thank you so much for answering the question.
Thanks.
You know, I've got a lot more stuff I'd like to bring up at some point in the future.
Okay, well,
I'm
can
heading
you call
over to
back
Taiwan
again?
in a week to do an ESL adventure. I'll let you go.
All right.
May his noodly appendages bless you. Ramen. Goodbye.
Okay.
May his noodliness, etc.
Right. So I think we can hang up on people, but picking them up is a danger.
Yeah,
right?
so we've got actually 2 theist callers on the line right now, and I don't want to risk accidentally knocking them out. So put line 3 on, please. Thanks. Kay in Woodbridge, Virginia.
That's me.
Yeah, that's you.
Okay, so I'm going to brag real quick. So my dad just celebrated 25 years of sobriety yesterday, and I'm really proud of him. But one thing that, and I'm questioning a lot of things right now with my beliefs in God. I just got out of college. But one thing that I'm really hung up on is I've seen a lot of people benefit from a lot of things that like religion and God has to offer them. I don't know if you know any of the tenets of Alcoholics Anonymous, but one of them is that you do have to have a belief in a higher power.
Yeah, we're familiar with them.
Okay, there has to be some kind of a belief in a higher power, and I've just seen the program really work for a lot of people. Throughout my life, I've kind of been raised in that environment and a belief in a God, if not the Christian God, and eventually the Christian God. But like I said, right now I'm questioning, but I do see a lot of benefits to religion and the church that I'm a part of.
Okay.
What do you think exactly about that? Because I've seen a lot of atheists say that there's a lot of negative things that religion has to offer.
There's a fallacy known as the appeal to consequences, which means that you decide something is true because you like what happens as a result of it being true, but you don't. But it's a fallacy because it doesn't actually demonstrate whether the thing that you're believing is true or not, because liking the idea of it being true doesn't in itself prove that something is correct. So I guess the question on my mind is, if there was a way to know for certain that there is no God, are you saying that you'd want to believe in a God anyway because you feel like, let's say, Alcoholics Anonymous does good things?
No, but I know that there are certain verses in the Bible. For instance, there's a scripture in John 8 where it talks about Jesus he's talking to people, to Jews who just said that they believed in him, and he says, if you hold to my teachings, then you will be my disciples, and then you will know the truth, and then the truth will set you free. A lot of people, say, oh, well, the truth has set you free, the truth has set you free, but it's kind of like a litmus test where, Jesus says, if you obey my commands, then you will know
So maybe you're saying... So maybe you're saying that it would be a good idea to agree with Jesus philosophically, but still not think that he was the Son of God or that there is a God.
I'm sorry?
I'm just trying to get where you're coming from here. Don, you got something to say?
Russell's just paraphrasing what you're saying.
Yeah.
He's saying, are you saying that you're advocating, following Jesus' teachings and not worrying so much about whether he was supposedly the Son of God? Is that what you're advocating?
I think the point of that particular passage and what Jesus was saying, especially in John, he refers to himself, I believe he refers himself as the Son of God and the Son of Man several times in John.
But I mean, the fact that it's mentioned in the Bible doesn't mean it's true. I mean, any other book, they could say something, there was a caterpillar smoking a hookah on a mushroom, and it wouldn't follow that caterpillar was real.
Okay,
as a rule, we're not terribly impressed with the Bible, but some people are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and what Jesus was saying is if you obey what he says and you follow in his steps, you will see, the outcome of that will be a positive outcome, and you will be able to, see that what he's saying is true.
Yeah, well, he says that. He says that in the Bible, but bear in mind that from our point of view, there's no particular reason to think that the Bible is reliable. And so, from our point of view, the fact that he's saying, if you believe in me, good things will happen to you, is just a demonstration that, the book contains its own propaganda about why you should believe the book.
Right.
Okay. I can see how that can... I can see how you see that, yeah.
Right.
And I guess it could be a self-fulfilling prophecy. There are times in my life where I've seen myself look at things and I've gone back to see that maybe a prayer wasn't necessarily what I thought. It wasn't answered exactly. I couldn't have said that was an answer to my prayers, and at the time it was. Like I said, I am questioning a lot of things.
when the Bible makes a testable claim, we can test it, right? So when Jesus says, I'll be back within a generation or within the lifetime of my disciples or my apostles, that was a testable claim that was false. When Jesus says, when you pray to God, anything you pray for, you will get. That's a testable claim, and that's false. So these sorts of things. We can look at Christian behavior, like he says, don't save for tomorrow because God will take care of you. Well, there's lots of Christians with bank accounts and lots of Christians with savings accounts. So when Paul says, hey, Jesus is going to come back real soon, stop having babies, we don't see that going on. So there's a lot of...
No, I thought you said Paul said it.
Paul said that.
Oh, okay, Paul
said that. Right.
did say that, yeah.
So,
Something like that.
when it makes testable claims and they tend to be false, then we tend to be very skeptical of what's in there. Now, there are phrases in the Bible like you can't serve two masters. You can't. That's definitely true. The conflict of interest is a problem. Mm-hmm. So there are pearls of wisdom in there, but the overall I don't know, and these sort of miraculous claims they tend to be unconfirmed at best, and false at worst. So those are the things that I think that make us skeptical about the Bible.
Mm.
I want to get back to your original point. I don't want to end this call without saying that I do think there are also, while you were talking about some of the positive benefits, like your father getting over his alcoholism, which I think is a great thing, I do think that the social effects of religion aren't 100% good. In a lot of cases, there are harmful side effects of religion which relate to tribalism. And one of the things Don was saying right at the beginning of the show, being that in some cases religion seems to be encouraging people not to take seriously the bigger problems of the world. But I also think that the more important reason to be skeptical of religion is not because you weigh whether it does more good than bad, but to actually think about what is it likely to actually be true, and what's a good reason for thinking that one way or the other.
I mean, yeah, I do need to I do need to think about some things. And okay. I am thinking through. I read a book by Michael Shermer. I think he even mentioned it today on the show. I wasn't really paying too much attention. I was down on my phone, but something Michael Shermer and why people believe weird things.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, I've been trying to really think through things and figure out whether or not what my beliefs are true or not. And a big part of that actually was I worked for a while with an environmental organization, and seeing the responses from my fundamentalist parents to some of the things that I was saying in the research that I was doing, and just seeing kind of the blinders go down. And I just don't want to be one of those people, so I really thank you for your time, and I'm glad I got to get on the show.
Well, keep searching, keep asking questions. That's a good thing.
I'm really glad you called, Kay. I hope we hear back from you.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
Bye.
Okay.
Who do you want to take next, Mr. Russell?
Give me line 2.
Line 2, magic.
This is not the other theist caller. Gary in Houston is probably going to be the last caller of the day because we so rudely hung up on him before.
Gary,
can you hear me?
Yes.
Hey, Russell and Don.
Sorry we had some phone trouble earlier.
Yeah, but I'm glad we finally connected. My name's Gary Brown. I'm an atheist.
Yep.
I'm also an IRS employee. And I wanted to ask you if you're familiar with an organization called Christian Fundamentalist Internal Revenue Employees.
That sounds creepy.
It does to me, too. It is a...
So you have some church-state separation
Pardon me?
concerns? You have some church-state separation concerns about this group?
Well, I certainly do. And so I wanted to tell you a little bit about them
Okay,
and see
please.
what your thoughts are.
All right. Bear in mind that we have about 3 minutes left, so if you need more time after the show, we can talk to you after there then too. But if you can hurry it up a little.
Okay, it might. This is probably a lengthy conversation, but I guess the nutshell version is this is a 501c3 and a separate legal organization which is partially funded by the IRS with respect to some of its activities. There are other IRS employee organizations, like there's one for Muslims, there's one for military veterans, there's one for Hispanics, there's one for Asians. So it has a value and a benefit to the employees, but of course, if you're concerned about separation of church and state like I am, ceasefire is a little.
Well, I think the main question here is are they favoring some religions over others or some religions over irreligion? And if so, then there's a problem. But if they're making these clubs or groups and funding and treating them all the same,
if they're
then there's
providing
not an
a
issue.
general pool of funds for people to start their subgroups, maybe that's okay.
Yeah, they're treating all these organizations the same in the way in which they partially fund them. So if I knew of other IRS employees interested in starting an organization for atheists, I'd be happy to start networking to do so.
Oh yeah, I think you should go for it. I mean, sometimes these organizations are illegal and ought to be shut down, but sometimes they're taking advantage of completely legit means of getting groups started, in which case we should take advantage of those too, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I believe that ceasefire is a legitimate organization, and the IRS certainly has the legal wherewithal to be partially funding their
these same sorts of questions come up with like school groups in public schools. You can have religious school groups, but you also have to, if there's a student that wants that, be able to create a secular student group or an atheist student group. And when they prohibit that, that's when they've crossed the line. And sometimes they do. Sometimes there are school districts that put roadblocks up for those sorts of clubs. So anyway, I think we're running out of time, Mr. Russell.
All right.
So I hope we addressed your question.
Yeah, thanks very much. Perhaps I'll run into people that are like-minded, and we can
go for it
to accomplish.
All right.
Good luck to you.
Thank you. Thanks for calling. Thanks, Don, for doing a show with me. Had a good time.
I had fun, yeah.
We got a couple more people on the line that we might pick up in the after show, and we're going to head over to El Arroyo shortly, and see you next week.